Hello, everyone. Welcome to Synchronic Saturdays with Megan and Crystal. Today, we're going to be talking about sort of the higher manifestations of extroverted feeling, which extroverted feeling, let's break it down. Extroverted is objective, external world, and feeling is your ethical value statements. And if you want to know more about FE, we already did an episode. Episode 24 is Intro to FE. Episode 25 is about low vibe FE. If you want to know what we mean by low vibe, high vibe, go back and listen to episode 14. Pretty much we're talking about these functions on a spectrum. We're talking about the lower manifestations and the higher manifestations. To keep you all in the loop, extroverted feeling, no matter how it is on the spectrum, it seeks to find mutual benefit or win-win situations. Whereas TE seeks efficacy. SE seeks impact. SI seeks homeostasis. NE seeks imagination. NI seeks understanding. TI seeks truth. And FI seeks what matters. And we're going to be going all into that in other episodes. How is it going, Crystal? Good?
Yeah. But before this, I was crying badly, and Megan used High Vibe FE to get me through it. Thank God for Megan and High Vibe FE. So, still a little breathy from that. My face is still slightly swollen, but it's all good.
Something I want to bring up is that we've mentioned in the other episodes about FE that lower vibe FE sort of is more emotionally reactive, where higher vibe FE is emotionally responsive. And I've been thinking about FE because I did a video a couple days ago, a couple videos about FE. And I've been thinking about how it works in sort of the higher manifestations. And the main thing that I kind of want to gear this topic around is the fact that extroverted feeling at its best is emotionally responsive, not reactive. It responds to situations, sort of keeping all of the possible emotions, like your emotions and my emotions, keeping all of that in mind to make a conclusion that is responding directly to your emotions and, communicating their emotions back. So, I know last episode we talked about some of the misconceptions or some things that Crystal perhaps doesn't really like about FE due to the lower manifestations. I'd be curious, Crystal, if you'd like to share some of the things about FE that you admire that perhaps you've realized just over the years through like being friends with me or just like your journey in understanding FE, because I know it can be a difficult function for ENFPs. Like, even though ENFPs do use extroverted feeling, you could use it. You tend to be critical of it when you see it, because ENFPs and ESFPs, they know the limits of FE to an extreme degree. Like, it's very similar, in my opinion, to INTJ and ISTJs. It's not the same because ITJs have FE as their blind spot, but EFPs, you know how to use it and you know that you shouldn't overuse it. Is that correct to you?
Yes, that is completely correct.
So yeah, I'm curious your thoughts on that.
Well, so first of all, I think that something I've learned about FE is truly, like I said in the last episode, that it's reacting to what the other person gives off and such. So on some level, I think it can be more reliable. Like when I'm sad and don't feel like doing something, like FE will still be able to usually, if you feel sad as well, do it. And if I'm experiencing an emotion that it can't quite understand by putting itself in my feet, still do like a baseline of like nice actions to kind of listen to me. And I think sometimes the limits with FI users is they will like perhaps try and like assume that FE is like them plus, like they think we can do what FE does. But I don't think we always can. That's the thing. Like I think that like truly when I'm going through a hard time and I have no energy to like literally give to other people, then like I'm just like I'm down for the count. Like I'm out of the game. But I think FE will at least like show up to the party if it feels bad. It will at least like, try and distract itself and like keep the conversation going if it feels bad. So at the end of the day, those things are really reliable for someone like me when I am going through like a crisis. And FE users are maybe also like not having a great time. They'll still be able to pull their weight and show up in a basic level for me. And I really like that about them. I think that.
Can you sort of explain what you mean by basic level, or continue your thought if you
like? I think FPs are so all or nothing, where we're giving everyone so much that we forget the times that we give people nothing. It's based on our like mood, because our mood dictates our energy levels. But that's not how it works for FE users. Like even when they're upset, they will still have more energy to give than when I am upset in a parallel way. I think FE users, they will never like even if they feel kind of like not that great, they will still push themselves to be there for someone. And I think the effort in of itself of pushing yourself can cause you to meet like certain milestones of like, you'll still go to that birthday party that's really important. Like you will not prioritize your own emotions over someone else's. And
I think a question. Or go ahead, sorry.
Like I just think it's like if your family member dies, FE users keep the production going by like making sure all the funeral arrangements and all of like family members is basically, or like if they need to talk to someone, they'll like look out for everyone. And I think that people just don't realize that keeps groups together, that keeps communities together, that keeps relationships together. And I think that selective amnesia about like taking that for granted isn't good on the collective's part.
I have a question for you. What would you say to FE users, perhaps TPs or perhaps FJs that are going through a really hard time, who feel as though they are not there for people, they aren't there as much as they wish they were, and they sort of have this perception where they are bad at texting back or whatever, and what is it that they can do that's the base level that FI can't do? Because I think that a lot of FJs, they, especially if you're just learning type, it's like maybe one FP that was really selfish or whatever, and in their mind they don't know what is an FI thing, what is like the capacity for FI versus what is just, oh, that one person I know just happens to be selfish. Because I think an issue in understanding this is that a lot of FE users will notice the times when they aren't there for people, and when they see their FP friends missing the mark or whatever, they might think that that's more of a personal problem than like an FI thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like that's not to say that like FI users are selfish, because FI users are very useful for emotional, kind of filling in the gaps too.
I guess I want to say that I think you're an amazing friend and that you always prioritize your friendship. But even with that, even you, as I would consider a healthy ENFP, doesn't give me basic FE things, and you're not a bad person.
Let me actually interact with the concept. Yeah. I got the gist.
Okay, yeah.
I think first disclaimer is that, like, I know some people listening are going to be like, are you saying FI is selfish or blah, blah, blah? What I'm trying to say is FE can do what FI can't, and FI can do what FE can't.
Yes.
We're not trying to pit them against each other right now. We're simply zoning in on what FE can do. We've already talked about what FE can't do. You can watch previous videos for that.
Yeah.
So just if you have any like general complaints or whatever, direct them towards me, and I can I can try and explain, because whatever. Oh my god. Anyways, wait, what's so funny?
What are you reacting to?
Well, just the awareness of what people are gonna say.
I just have to say that I think FE and FI know what people are gonna say in such a different way. I feel like you directly respond to what you know is gonna trigger people. And
I already know word for word what they're
going to say. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm just like reacting like in advance. I'm like, I already know they're thinking this, whatever. But so basically I think like FE users seem to focus on the times they're not there for someone when they look back And FI users focus on times they were there for someone when they
Uh,
and so that gives you the illusion on both ends that someone's like extremely like self-deprecating and overly giving, and someone can be extremely like arrogant and think that they've done everything. Like it's just like it's kind of weird selective emotional amnesia. But I would employ F users to realize like this might sound like you're trying to be, you know, egotistical, but don't think that way. You have to realize that like when I am having a bad day, I think, well, okay, like I think of my emotions as like, or I think of my emotional labor, so to speak, as like a credit score. When I'm having a bad day, I'm like, oh, like I fucking hate myself right now and I can't give authentically. So I'm going to borrow credit from all the times that I was there for someone, like unconditionally, gave them no judgment, all that stuff.
yes.
And because of that, I'm just gonna like my friend's like, I'm having a really bad day, can you come over? And I'm like, I don't fucking want to because I can't even take care of myself right now. How do you expect I could take care of you? I'm just gonna take some credit like by like I have done that. And I think
And
that
I just have to say that that's something that FE users can learn from, because I don't naturally think that way. But okay, continue what you're saying.
yeah, like so that's the thing. This isn't an unhealthy behavior for FI because FI does actually have a narrower energy channel in my
Yes.
opinion. Like FA just actually get burnt out by like intense emotions because they feel everything so intensely themselves. So they're gonna like transmute everyone's energy and like
Think about it. No matter if you're an extrovert or an introvert, if you use FI, when it comes to feelings, you're an introvert. Like
yeah,
when it comes to feelings, those people are, or too many emotions is overwhelming. Where on the other hand, I have introverted thinking. Even though I'm the most extroverted person ever, if I'm at work, I need to think in silence. I can't like, I don't know. Too many thoughts are like distracting for me to think as a TI user, no matter.
Yes, okay, let me go on. So FI has a narrower channel. So when it's being quote selfish, like F users say that because they're assuming everyone has like FE, so they FI users not wanting to show up because they literally don't have the energy. That's them thinking they have FE, but they're choosing not to use it, as opposed to the FI user actually has no energy. Like they're actually just have a shorter like lifespan when it comes to emotional giving. And I think that FI users don't realize that like other people don't have this bandwidth or this limited bandwidth, and so they're gonna get like, you know, people thinking, why aren't you showing up? And so on the other hand, FE at its best will always have the energy to like ask you how your day was and at least like listen and like maybe bake you something nice if they're an SFJ, or like inspire you with some motivational quote they saw. Like they'll always just on a baseline level, like a basic, hi, I'm here and I'm a human. Like they'll like be there. Like they never will like just not respond to you necessarily unless they're super in the trenches, but it's like, it takes more for an FE user to not show up compared to an FI user who has a narrower energy channel. I think FE users, they also sometimes maybe show up more than they should, like when they're having a bad time, they don't prioritize themselves, because I think that they don't believe there's like an emotional credit score that all the times that they did show up will like, you know, matter and help them if they just don't show up this one time. If you just kind of like seem to be perpetually anxious, and so if they like don't feel appreciated, but they needed to maybe be by themselves and like with their own emotions at that time, then it can get kind of messy. But on the flip side, they'll always be there and be able to like, you know, not prioritize other emotions, people's emotions over theirs, but they'll be able to meet like both. Like they really legitimately believe that company is always like better on some level than none. Even like,
or go ahead.
I said, and like this is like an FJ thing, I think that's more apparent, but even like a TP, they'll like still like be able to hold a basic level of human interaction and like be polite or be slightly engaged, as opposed to completely shut down and like mopey the way FI users going through it feel everything hitting them. If you can be like blah blah, like they can like kind of keep it on a surface level, like keep the company and the flow going.
I just
And
have to say too, shout out to ENTP Carly if you're listening. But people don't give TPs enough credit like for their FE, in the sense that like if you were to think of a friendship of ENFP Crystal and then our ENTP friend Carly, a lot of people, they're just learning these things on the surface level. You think that it would be like the thinker that was always like hurting the feeler sort of like emotionally. And like, not that that couldn't happen. That definitely could happen. And I'm not trying to make this like a, sorry, whatever. But you get the idea. But it actually, even though ENTPs don't value FE as their top function, they could still be very disappointed by the lack of FE.
Yeah. And like to address that point, I think like let's take away feeler and thinker because I think people think of them too generally. But let's just look at the fact that when you look at both me and ENTP's feelings, I'm using introverted feeling. They're using extroverted feeling. So the introverted feeling is going to hurt the extroverted feeling because it's like kind of like in its little case. And extroverted feeling is like, hello, like, you know what I mean? So it's like, if it's a feeler like an FJ and like a TP thinker, then maybe it's a different dynamic, you know, of like levels of hurt. But from this standpoint, we just compare the feeling functions. I am using introverted feeling and I am going to withdraw more often than anyone with extroverted feeling, regardless if it's a TP or FJ, because I am using an introverted version of what they, like, you know what I mean? So like, I think that's a better way of trying to frame it. So
and I think, so we sort of talked about that. And so now we have this basis of what like sort of a healthy FP looks like. And so what can you not do then? Like, what is it that FE does that you can't do? So I think sorry, go ahead.
I think like FE, well, for me, my
I have something to answer as well. So,
oh my gosh, I can, okay, I will do that and then you can maybe answer. Because like, I think FPs, for me, because I'm a perceiver and I like look at the world, my extroverted function is a perceiving function. FI is going to influence my world. So my entire world is going to be colored by like FI. So like when I'm actually sad, I actually can't function as highly because I actually see the world in a completely different tint. And okay, so I know that's because I'm a P. For TJs, I feel like even then, like they still won't have the emotional energy to really like show like up. I don't really know how to get deeper into that idea of not being.
And I wasn't trying to interrupt you. I just was like explaining that I wasn't acting, or I wasn't asking the question to you. I was saying it to lead up to my what I was going to say really quick is that FI see what you're seeing right now is actually messiness, because what you're seeing between the two of us is messiness because I'm trying to use FE to flow the convo and I'm not using TE to explain like what I'm about to say. And this isn't just for people watching. This isn't like Crystal and I like fighting or whatever. This happens all the time because we sometimes just go over each other's heads.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I don't know what cue I missed or what cue you missed, but you can really
exactly. But we constantly miss each other's cues all the time. And anyway.
Yeah, and like, you know, that's also like helped us learn about the functions through each other. But yeah, like because I'm like, okay. But go on.
And like maybe you would have perceived that as me not caring what you were about to say, or maybe someone could have perceived it as whatever, me not listening, like, but whatever. I just was going to say really quick, and then I want to hear what you were going to say then, is that what FI does is it can dig itself into a hole to understand, I'm feeling bad. What did I do to get here? How can I get out? And so you're digging at a hole to really understand the emotion. But the problem is that if you do that too much, then you can truly convince yourself that you're the only person that's ever felt that before. And you can really isolate yourself. And that's what FE is afraid of doing. And that's why if you're having a bad day or whatever, or like if a friend reaches out and needs you, which sometimes FE does need, sometimes it does need you because it's an extroverted function, and people shame that and they think it's weak. But we're a social species, and it's not bad to have a need. It's not bad to have an emotional need for somebody else, for connection, for companionship. And it's everybody's responsibility to explain what their needs are so that they could be met. But if somebody has a need for connection or for communication whenever they're upset, I want to reiterate again that if an FJ is going through a hard time and they need company or they need to talk to somebody, this does not mean that they are avoiding themselves, they don't know themselves, or they're trying to leech on you. What it means is that they need a reminder that that the connection is real and that they're not alone, and that alone, just connection alone is enough to solve whatever they're going through. And that is valid and that is okay. And I'm sick of FI shaming FE for having that need, because the way that we have emotional needs is different.
Exactly. So yeah, because for FI, because we're so good at holding up when we need to, when we do reach out and need someone, we actually have like thought it through. And what we project for FE is that they don't seem to always have thought it through. So we assume that they should go and think it through. But in reality, sometimes we overthink it through and we need people more than we realize. And I think FJs,
it's such a paradox.
Yeah, because and we were talking about this earlier, me and Megan, how like, if you don't know someone's cognitive type, you are not going to know how to read their behavior. You just aren't. Like FJs and FPs can do like almost identical behaviors, and you will not know what's actually real or not because it will look the same. You can only through asking them figure out their cognition, figure out their tells, figure out their bids. And even then, if you're not reading them all the way correctly, it's like, so at the end of the day, I think FJs do already feel a lot of shame for needing to reach out. They don't think they should need other people. But
I think that what we're asking for is so small, where FI wants to give their whole hearts, and you're so all or nothing that the FI user won't want to reach out if they don't have their whole heart to give, when all the FE user probably needs is just a reminder that they're not alone. Because FE, since it's objective emotion, we're thinking everyone's felt sad before, everyone's felt anger before, everyone's felt hope or like wanted to feel hope. We're thinking of it so broadly. And that is the thing that connects us. And that is the thing that reminds us that we're not alone. And it's what pulls us out of that tunnel and reminds us that we're all the same freaking species and that we can help each other.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let me actually share like an anecdote of how you helped me with FE.
I'm going to fill up this coffee while you're doing that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Guys, so like earlier today, I was struggling with this idea that like, so I've been like doing a lot of like somatic body work recently and like kind of like creating my consciousness as an NFP. Like I've been really understanding my FI more and how it's impacted my life, but in a spiritual way too, not just, oh, I need to like eat and sleep more. It's more than that. It's like the information about like how my childhood experiences have like actually physically affected how well I can do things intuitively too. Like why I'm so creative, why I'm so like driven, and how many traumas I've suffered. And like okay, like Megan and I've gotten a few fights over the past few weeks because she's been like not able to fully understand that. And what my temptation was to think was, oh, like Megan, like, because I realized without SI, Megan can only understand me so much. And so I mistook that as Megan only likes me for like the intuitive parts she can relate to. And then like, I thought that she just had this FI reaction to it, which, isn't beside the point, because from an FE standpoint, Megan still loves me even when I'm being like, kind of freaked out and like panicking in a way she can't comprehend, but she can't understand me as well. And as an FI user, if I was in her position, I would like resent it, as opposed to, I think her FE was still willing to try and listen through and try to like understand the gist of it, versus for me, if I felt hurt by something she'd done and something I could understand, I would just probably shut down and not even like confront her really about it or try and like
whenever I notice a dissonance, it makes me more curious.
Yeah, because what I was trying to focus on versus like how harsh she was kind of being sometimes, all criticisms about me, was the fact that she was still there talking. And sometimes I'm like, why are you still talking? Do you even want to be here? Is like something an FI user would wonder.
Of course I want to.
Exactly. But see, FI users want to. They aren't like, oh, I love you, I want to. They're more like, I want to, because this is the right thing that I believe strongly I need to be doing. Like, they're not like, it's like dramatic necessarily, like FI, like do or die, but it's still like a very steady, stable, no, I'm fine with being here right now. Like it's
an extroverted function. It's active. It is taking like, the initiative to further our connection.
It's taking information, it's evolving, it's like yeah, it's like transforming, but it's not like a I'm here, I love you. It's not necessarily like that kind of like specific, but it's kind of like the principle of, well, like I don't understand you right now, and the only way I'm going to is like if I'm here.
Yes.
It's not as dramatic as you think. It's not like it's like I'm here despite the fact that I don't want to be because you're with it to me. I mean, it's like sure that's like kind of it, but like more
It's a
so.
no-brainer to me, though. That's the thing. It's like FI users can do the same thing whenever they really love someone, but to me,
Yeah,
it's literally a no-brainer. It's not. It doesn't feel like a sacrifice. It's like what I
yeah.
want to do.
It feels like a sacrifice if I was
Yeah.
like in that position. And I think for Effie, you might even be doing that to like someone that like was like, you know, like a coworker you don't really know, like you might be listening to them. Like FI will be super selective. So like basically it's based on your FI about the person as opposed to the FE. All people deserve to be heard or something. Like FE is like anytime there's a question, it should be heard until the answer is like, you know what I mean? It's like a very like detached principle, but I think it's actually good to be like, you know, kind of detached in that sense, because it's like then whatever I say, if I was really mean, you would still stay on and you wouldn't be like, all right, I'm done. Because FI users, if you the minute you're mean to them, they just completely leave the combo, as opposed to if he's like, hey, you're being mean.
FI has left the chat.
Yeah, exactly. If he's like, you're FI's like, I'm being mean, then why haven't you left the chat? If he's like, no, because I'm still here on principle that I want to like understand. It's like,
So
okay.
here's something I just thought of that is a great way to differentiate FE and FI and can help you really see what higher vibe FE is. Okay, so emotionally, what is your emotional reaction whenever you notice a dissonance between you and someone that you love? What is your emotional reaction? Not how you respond, not how you've been taught.
I freak out and I kind of want to shut down.
Yeah, so FI, whenever it notices a dissonance, it separates.
Yes, and then let me keep going because
Or let me just finish this and then I want to hear your thoughts. So FI, when it notices a dissonance, it separates. It builds a wall, it protects, it builds boundaries. And that is a great thing. It also can cause more separation. And so what FI users need to learn is when to not do that, when to be more open. Or on the other hand, FE users, when it notices a dissonance, it gets curious, it builds a bridge. And it just naturally does. It just naturally does. And that's why so many FJs are victims of abuse or whatever, like in toxic relationships, because FJs need to learn when to not build a bridge. Like, and so higher vibe FE builds a bridge out of emotional strength in a way that FI just, it won't think to do.
yeah.
Even the highest vibe of FI that learns to build bridges learned it over time and has a FI value that they should and is still selective and still won't build a bridge to a toxic thing. So anyway.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, like so I wanted to, because I know that once again people are going to be confused. I wanted to clarify how you're like, tell me your reaction, Crystal, not your response. So my reaction is I always want to shut down when I hear dissonance. Always. My response is different each time based on my value, because as an FI user, I know I always have a choice to, like if I want to build a bridge and invoke kind of like my shadow FE, I will do it. I will not give in to the impulse, which is I want to shut down. But when you apply this objectively across the board, not every FI user is someone who responds nobly to those things. You cannot say that. There are some really fucking harsh, evil things that have been done because of FI. On the other hand, when you choose to respond well to this impulse, you can create even bigger amplified good than FE or something.
Yeah.
So FI has very extremes, but FE, you're just saying, is objective. Like usually they just want to build a bridge.
Yes.
They're not checking in subjectively to see if the bridge is worth being built.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
FI would never, never get tricked into building a bridge to something toxic unless they kind of were reacting off the idea that they had a choice. And I know FI is just like, well, I've been the victim of blah, blah. I'm like, if you ask your like latent TI, FE, like kind of like, you know, like shadow, whatever, you probably knew you had a choice. Because, okay, like to illustrate, I like had a hard time with like men in the past, a lot of F users actually were like, why are you still in that? But because to me, I was like, I know I can leave at any time, but I'm choosing to like I'm choosing, like FI always feels like it has a choice to build a bridge. FE just does it reflexively. It's like Megan's point of growth has been to learn how to not build the bridge. My point of growth has been to learn to build the bridge, even when I'm scared and think I'm going to get rejected.
That's why it's so important to know that you're correct type, because it can help you know where you need to go. And shout out, Crystal and I have a typing service, so if you want to be typed by us.
Exactly.
Anyway,
like I think that I really want to emphasize that, like, right now, I know we're talking about like FI2 again, but like one point
it helps to compare it.
People need to unlearn their associations with high vibe FE as it being like something FI can do, because when FI does something that looks like high vibe FE, there's a different cognitive process going on. And Megan and I's philosophy here is that we have different cognitive ways to get like the same results.
Yes.
So if an FJ and an FP are both being like the best friend ever for you, they did it in a different way, and that we are commenting on the cognitive process here. And so you're going to disagree with us on the way because you are seeing maybe it way far ahead or way further back than our point in time, talking about FE starts off wanting to build bridges. And I'm just thinking about, like, as a kid, I would envy so many fucking FJs, because I know, like, now that they're grown up, I'm like, okay, those are FJs. Like, as an FP child, I did not know how to build any bridges. I just stayed in my head with my emotions a lot. And FJ kids were like the ones that were like always wanting to play with everyone and always wanting to come up with ideas and games. And I was just like, I'm so jealous. And then when I grew up, I learned how to like take those emotions and transform them into good FE works. But FE doesn't need to like sit and transform itself. It doesn't need to sit and ruminate on its emotions before it chooses to like good things with them. High vibe FE is stable in that it will always try to show up. And like, maybe if you're like an FI user, you can sometimes nitpick that it's not always sincere. They didn't always really want to on an FI level show up, but their TI has decided constantly and can't do anything but show up. Like, they are trying to like scale back, so give them a fucking break. You know,
really hurt. So I saw on Twitter recently a tweet that someone was like, what is something that you're honestly trying to work on that is the worst flaw that you have? And don't say some bullshit like that you're too nice. I saw that and I instantly just sort of felt offended, in the sense that me being too nice has been the thing that has held me back for real, like, and caused me a lot of pain. And I really do think that FI users think that we're full of shit when we say that my biggest problem is that I build too many bridges. Okay.
Let me qualify that. I think like FI users, when they say don't say some shit like I'm too nice, when FI users say that, or when FI users buy into that, they have like an actual like when FI users are too nice, they're neglecting their TE ability to hold boundaries and hold space. So like, it's legitimately like you are actually choosing to be a bad person if you don't exercise that choice you have as an FI user. For FI users though, I agree. Like, it's actually building bridges, aka being nice, is
actually killing you. It's actually hurting you.
I think for a lot of feelers, you do need boundaries. But it looks different. Like, it's like FI, it's like you are just actually self-sabotaging because you actually know how to not. Because you have extroverted thinking, you actually know how to put up the wall. FE, it's like, well, it's going to be a constant process, especially for FJs, your whole life, because you don't have the TE to always like kind of be able to be like, pick your bridge building battles, you know? Like,
and that's why I said in a recent video, or sorry, go ahead. I shouldn't have done that.
I said you want to give everyone a chance. And so FE is like, oh, that person's a human, they get a chance. You get a chance. Everyone gets a chance. Everyone gets one.
Oprah.
Yeah, ENFJ. And FPs are like, well, like, and FPs may be like, I want to understand all the criminals and all they've been through. But that's like understanding. That's not like literally like, I want to go and give something to like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yes. You want
FJ's
to understand maybe why a criminal did something, but you might not care as much about like reparations or something.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna like fucking like I'm not gonna give them something. I'm just gonna like give them the understanding that I understand them. I'm not gonna give them anything I'm not gonna give them more of like my resources or my time than like I think I want to give, you know. And FE is like, oh well, like I literally had like FJ friends who like gave their money to like homeless people and then like kind of got burned for it, like because they literally like low-key almost got mugged. And I'm like the kind of person where I'm like, I'll give you like a fucking dollar and then run the fuck away. Like, you know, I like think I have a choice now where I can like, and I think Effie's like, oh, let's build a business like it's like so much more naive, but also more.
It is naive.
It is
but
like
it's
more
also very, very wholesome. Like high vibe FE is very wholesome. And I want to reiterate, I said this in a recent video that FE is the function that that maintains civility in human nature. It maintains civility.
exactly.
And it prevents people from going to war, and it maintains the peace at a very basic level. Very basic level. With just here, I want you to give your sort of take in just a second. But with basic peace at a FE level, without any FI, there's no real fulfillment. And so that's why it's so important to have both, because I guess what I'm trying to explain here is that the reason I know it's sort of a bold statement, but I said in a recent video, I'm going to say it again, the FE is the function that prevents people from going to war, and it mends wars. It creates the treaty. It's talking to the enemy directly, building a bridge to the enemy, figuring out what their needs are and yours, and figuring out a way to
negotiations. Yeah.
And another thing about higher vibe FE is that it wants to orient itself exactly the way it wants to be. Like, I treat you like my best friend because you are my best friend, and I treat my enemies like strangers because I want them to be strangers. So I'm not even saying that high vibe FE is going to always want to be your best friend, but at the very least, it would be like two countries that have completely different beliefs that are just respecting the border. Respect the border. Let them, if you think that they're wrong, let them fuck up. Like, honestly, I just have to say too, like, that America's whole thing of like trying to go to other countries and like make them change their minds is so not FE. So not FE at all. Like, FE would say, oh, okay, you want to be socialist? Well, we don't. Yeah, go ahead.
So, yes. So I want to emphasize that, like, I think FI creates new emotions and stuff. Like, it's like the Kickstarter to negative or positive experiences, and FE is the mechanism to which it can maintain that dynamic. Yes. It is a mechanism. So I'm not saying that, like, oh, the only reason we like even got a treaty was because of FE. The thought of let's get a treaty, like, that's like the goal of an FE user, and like once the goal has been implemented, they can like maintain the standards for which it should be continued to be met. But I think that like the sustainability of it externally is on FE, and the maybe ideas and the nuances of like, but like what do these like countries want? Once FI gives hypotheses, FE can be like, okay, let's take these negotiations and let's put them into action.
That's so true, because the same as how TI is what has original thought, and TE looks at all the thoughts and like implements. Like, FE and TE are both like managing like resources. Well, for FE it's like emotions, but like it's like this higher, like looking from a bird's eye view, managing all of it. So I know some of you might think that I think that FE is better than FI, and I absolutely don't think that. I don't think that. Like, I don't think that maintaining war is better than finding inner peace. Because, maintaining, sorry, I spoke wrong. I didn't mean maintaining war. I don't mean that, you could prevent war all you want, but if you don't know how to have inner peace in yourself, it won't matter, because your own inner world will suck.
Exactly.
And so that's why you vote.
So FI is about the inner world, and FE is about making the inner world matter. So you need to reflect with FI and then do with FE. And FE users are, and FE and FI is kind of better at one or the other, but not always both, unless they've like really elevated their perspective.
Here's another thing too about FE is that a lot of times FI users are like, hey, have mental health issues, or they're like going through a really hard time, and they think that they're the problem when really it's their surroundings that are the problem. And FE is really good at being like, hey, like maybe you should do some things to change your emotional environment, or maybe you should move if you don't like living there. Or like FE could be good at like coming up with solutions to change things, where FI sometimes, if you're in a really bad scenario, like all you do is you're feeling your own emotions. You think you can, if you stay there too long, you can convince yourself that you're the problem and be unaware of all the ways that the extroverted emotions are causing that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I think that FE always reminds me what the emotional goal is, and like reminds me if I'm meeting it or not. How I get there, the FI nuanced process, is totally kind of up to FI, but FE reminds you of the standard that, you know, the absolute goodest and best. So they remind us of the standards. They're not saying how to get there. They don't always know how to get there. They just know what the end goal is, and they'll do their best to try and reach it. Yeah. You know, I think we get on them for not being perfect because we think they should be like yeah. But yeah, and I think like me, when I think of like FP and FJs trying to brainstorm how to maintain like peace in like a friend group or some situation, I'm like the psychologist that's like, well, I think each individual person that they're feeling this because of this is this, they're feeling this because this is this. And I go deep, and FE goes, okay, now we're going to take all these perceptions of what the people are feeling, and let's figure out who should sacrifice what and who should like do what. And, you know, they look at everyone's pie in the pickle, or the a piece of the pie
in the pickle.
Yeah, I don't know, a piece of the pie. So I think the thing people forget why, you know, so many people have misconceptions about FE is because FE, because of its objectivity and the fact that it always maintains emotional standards, when it like fucks up in an FI way, it impacts people like a lot, to where I feel like when I've like fucked up unintentionally, like I guess it's like kind of like a minor stab versus like to FE, I feel like you guys get more shit when you're not perfect.
I don't know if we always influence the emotional environment, like whether we like it or not. And that's something that I know I've talked to other ENFJs about, where sometimes we're afraid to share our honest emotions because we know that when we speak them into existence or whatever, it's like impacts the entire room. And ENFJs, or like ESFJs as well, can either be like the light like in the room, or like this negative vortex of energy that could be around. Like it could be like Debbie Downers.
Exactly. But see, even within that, they're trying to maintain the same standard of behavior regardless if they're a vortex at the moment or if they're a light in the room. They think more FE building bridges. They never think I should isolate myself if I'm a vortex. They're like, no, connection is the way to get me out of the vortex and get other people out.
Yeah. And another thing I'm realizing is I think that seeing things with abundance, any type can do it, but I think when it comes to emotions particular, FI has more of a tendency to make sure that it has its own piece of the pie versus the other, like you were talking about pie earlier or whatever, where FE will say, oh, how much pie do you want? Okay, how much pie do I want? Okay, this is how much we have. Okay, I'm going to make more pie because you have that need. FE is the one to take a step and do, like, make more. Like, if you have an emotional need and I have an emotional need and there isn't enough to meet that need, then they figure out how to meet the need. It's the same as how TE in like a business sense, or like if you're talking about like, I don't know, because it's hard because I don't know. TE is not just in business, and just as FE is not just in relationships. But for some reason, I don't really know another way to parallel it.
FE emotions tend to more viscerally influence relationships. Not to say emotions don't influence business, but I think like you can see the dynamic at play more in those transactions. So it's not saying, like, because TI is needed for business, FI is needed for relationships, but you can the TE and FE pops up more.
So I guess just like an example of like a more TE thing would be like, oh, okay, we're going to build this app and this is the amount of work that we have to do. And so, oh, okay, so this is your productivity level. This is your productivity level. Okay, we need to hire somebody. Okay, how much money do we have? Okay, this is how much the price is. We need to hire somebody because we need to get that done. And so TE is the thing that where TI might just be like, oh, I just need to optimize my performance. TE will like look at like the needs and the resources and be like, okay, this isn't going to get done unless we do something to meet this deadline. Where FE will do the same thing, but with emotional needs. But because we live in a society that doesn't talk about emotional needs, then FE, the value of FE isn't valued. But the emotional needs are still there, and the FE users are still performing the emotional labor behind the scenes. So
yeah. And so I think like also FI users are like, hey, I perform emotional labor. And I know that I resonate with that because I've like literally like been the person people go to when they like have a family death or like they're suicidal or they're going through a bad breakup. I like subjectively pull that emotional weight because I help people with their subjective problems. But in a group dynamic, my shit ain't gonna stink. Like it's like I literally don't have a mechanism to like maintain group harmony necessarily. I can only do it between like one individual and two individuals at a time, or if one person has something, I can go deep into what they're going through. But like FE users, it's like there's a fucking family funeral, I'm gonna check out. Like I don't have the energy to try and support each and every person unless I do it very slowly and deliberately, talking to each one, pulling aside. FE's like, all right, we're gonna all make grandma turkey because she just lost grandpa. Let's all do that together. The bonding activity.
why is it that I feel like, and tell me if I'm biased as an FE dom, why is it that I feel like talking about the strengths of FE is just so triggering to FI that like we're spending the whole episode having to cater to FI as opposed to like gassing FE up? And I like feel like we have to, because I feel like you literally can't gas FE up without like catering to the FI.
Yeah, I like how you were like, I feel like this is the case, but also we have to. Like I like how you maintain like I don't feel bad about it. It's just weird to my TI, right?
Well, it's weird. It's weird because I know that it's going to come off like because I'm an ENFJ, I'm spending more time talking about FE or whatever. But like, actually, I have to go to the bathroom. And so if you'd like to, do you think you can address that?
Yeah, let me just think about it though. Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I'm almost feeling like, you could just talk to the FPs for a second because I feel like they need talking to. I don't know. I don't know what to say.
Okay, go to the bathroom.
Okay.
Go to the bathroom. Okay, so I think if I'm being real, that like, oh gosh, I'm like trying to figure out how to say this. Like, I just think that like most FI users kind of like they've been really emotionally impacted by like FJs, and because we keep thinking they have FI, we read all reactions as FI because without TI, we don't think that people are all really different, and we don't think that they have different processes for like how they're doing things. And so that benefit of the doubt, we're gonna judge people that can't explain their process as well. And to be honest, FJs suck at explaining. This is how I am. Here's the guidebook to how I work. Go forth. They've never been able to. They're like defenseless because without the TE, like objective process of giving out the information, you're literally never going to be able to like stick up for yourself as an FJ. So I think that's why so many misconceptions have grown out of like, I guess simply not enough like qualifying and things, so that an entire society doesn't understand complexities of this function. And that's why there's been so many misunderstandings, because TE is great at convincing you of one thing because it can be concise, and FE isn't going to know the words too. So I think it's just literally the setup of the function is that it ended up that way. It's just a plant that grows a certain way. Oh god, I'm going to have to tell that to Meghan when she comes back. But yeah, like I think man, we do. Okay, there you are. Okay, I have to reiterate what I just told them to you because I think you'd find it really. Oh, I have to reiterate what I just told them to you. Anyways, I was saying that, like, I think that just as how like picture like Jungian typology as like a garden, like, and like like FE just has more weeds you have to like pull out. The weeds symbolizing people's misconceptions of them. I was tying this to how I think because a lot of FJs don't have the TE to logically explain how FE works, there's an entire like generation and culture and like, you know, like spiritual pattern of people just not knowing where the fuck they're coming from because they don't have the physical words to explain and convey everything that they are thinking, and the guidebook. There's no guidebook on how to like be an FJ and how they work because there's no have enough TE to like explain it, and other people don't have enough FE to like listen to them ramble until they understand.
To care enough to build a bridge too.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like literally like the fact that they're the bridge builders but not the explainers, and the explainers aren't the bridge builders. You know what I mean? So like I was just thinking about this. I was like, it has to do with the fact that they're just it would take too long, no offense, to listen to an FJ explain. Because even the reason we understand each other is we've been friends for 5 years. We've been studying this shit. And I would say that, like, for me, it was because my FI likes learning about the functions that my value.
Also, you're curious about me because I validate you.
Exactly. You validate me because you have FE and TI. And my FI subjectively liked that about you, that you would embody that. So it was literally through FI and FE that we became the powerful pair that we are. So like quite literally, this is like the fruits of great FE, FI power together. But on their own, people don't understand what FE does and doesn't do because it doesn't use TE to qualify what it does and doesn't do naturally unless, you know, someone like me pushes you because I have enough TE to be like, okay, like you're going to sound really off to people who are looking at both sides of the coin. And those people tend to talk louder because they can talk more efficiently. It takes so long for FE and TI, even TPs, to concisely explain how they work.
Yeah. In every logical realm, like people discussing theory or like in the scientific world or even in business, TE just takes up way more space than any of the other judging
because they can use words to logically make an impact faster.
On the other hand, FE takes up space emotionally, like in friend groups. Like they're the ones that are talking about their problem. Like
because people don't know how to process those emotions necessarily. They like feel more salty and more emotionally impacted by that. So they're gonna
and then the FI user gets upset at the FE user in the friend group that's always talking about their problems. Partially because they think, why don't you go figure it out yourself? And they're also thinking, it's like, why can't I share? Why can't I get a word in for my FI?
Yeah, and a point I just thought of was it's not always even necessarily just FI, because I feel like some TPs could also be salty at an FJ for taking up space, but be able to
well, it's also because they're lower FE.
Yeah, but they could explain and build a bridge better than the FP would, because they would be like, why do you always take up so much space? Like, they would say that, and then the FJ would defend themselves, and then they'd have to, like, work it out, blah, blah, blah. But, like, it's not necessarily, like, just FP's experiences. I think basically what I want to say is anyone without TE, aka FJs, to explain how they work, is going to get, we kind of assume that they are just really gassed up because they're so audacious and because there's never been any like prominent probably FJ like scholar to qualify and challenge that idea.
And it's funny because all of the FJ scholars are literally typed incorrectly when you look online. Like
I think a lot of misconceptions. Okay, so to summarize, the reason why we have to gas up, we have to qualify and explain how FI and FE are both beneficial is because so much misconception and hurt has built up around how FE works without the TE to explain it, that people just all have a collective kind of baggage around how good is FE, how good is it not, and distinguishing between the difference is something that I don't think a lot of people have done before. So we have to give all these disclaimers to kind of like weed out misconceptions, because when you don't have the presence of truth like planted in a way that's packaged nicely for people, misconceptions will grow and you have to clean them out. Just like how because
my impulse is to just talk about like, oh, let's talk about what FE is good at. But then if I don't mention what it's bad at, then people are like, oh, so you're saying that it's the best function? I'm like, no.
Yeah, especially because ironically, I think without any TE, you're not going to think to qualify that. Just as how when, like, and I think, you know, and we'll talk about this in like the TE videos, but I think like TE struggles with like a parallel thing with like not giving disclaimers to like, I still care about you. But like they never think to do things like that too. So I think that
exactly. Like I know ENTJs really don't like pressure from like having to text friends back. They just would rather them just trust, and they just think if you don't trust that I care about you, then why are you even my friend? Is what they think.
Yeah. So we can get to that for sure. Like, and like also like gas up like how FE doesn't do things that TE does.
Yes.
Later, because I think and to come back to something that I really believe, and I think you do too, is balance. So yes, it's kind of dumb that in this case it's super imbalanced how FE and FI see each other not eye to eye, but the duality of like how things work together is something that we're really trying to promote. So at the end of the day, like I know you understand the necessity of this on like a basic level. Like you just see there's a need, you're doing it. But I deeply with FI really, it matters to me deeply that we balance this. So all people, regardless of their functions, can understand this. Because to me, it's like, okay, like the NFJs or whoever who's going to listen to this, they don't need the disclaimers. They're just going to kind of zoom by them. But the people who need the disclaimers are going to understand this concept more. And I think that in most cases, talking about one function, you can't talk about one without the other because they contrast each other to more powerfully illustrate what they can and can't do. So it makes the point go in deeper, I think, to someone's FI to really love FE. And I
by the way, Crystal's using really good NE right now. For those of you watching along at home.
I'm just like,
you're talking about all these different sides of the coin and how you have to look at both sides. That's so NE. So
yeah, and like what I also wanted to say was like for me, the only reason I understand FE so well to where FJs are like, oh my god, yes, roast us or something.
Yeah.
Because of my subjective FI desire to see it, but I don't always see it. So in those cases when an FJ builds me a bridge and I already have the desire to see it, then we both benefit. They've built the bridge and I've crossed it and explained to them what I was or wasn't seeing. They're like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. Like FE can't do what I do. I can't do what it does. So Meg and I have both pulled our weight to try to understand each other, our friendship. But it had to be both.
And also, like, the reason I can even explain anything with personality is because my TI subjectively, like, did the work to figure it out. Whereas Crystal, perhaps you haven't done as much TI work figuring out these concepts, but your TE just gets it and can explain it.
Yeah, but see, like, so it took Megan's TI and F, because TI and FE is like, okay, like, I have to stick around. That is like the bare minimum. They're like, okay, just show up, just stick around. I'm kind of like, oh, it's so painful, but fine, I guess I'll show up. And sometimes it was like, I had to be like led to the fucking like water trough to drink.
Wait, what do you mean stick around?
Like, stick around for long enough to understand. I think on a basic level, FE gets that. FI, I'm like, ugh, like I have to really like force myself to stick around. Like I have to like shove it. I have to like shove myself there. And I don't think it's pulling teeth for you to like talk things out, to be curious, any of that. So like, because that was modeled to me, it helped me find the authentic desire to show up, but I have to steel myself so much to push past my emotions sometimes to do that.
You know, another thing I've been thinking about lately is that, so FE users are really aware of the emotional environment, how that impacts things, right? Well, I think that the emotional environment and how we've been socialized as people have influenced the way that we even think about FE. And for FE users to say, I think that people don't understand FE really well or whatever, it's like it takes FE to even see what they're even talking about. Like I tweeted this once. It's like kind of meta. It's like the FJs say people don't understand FE and that they're so misunderstood. But in order to even see that that's not just a subjective feeling that they're reacting to, you'd have to have enough FE to even see.
Yeah, have to have FE to reject the FI, because I feel like I'm able to like cycle past possibilities because I reject and kind of skip over my own NI. But like
everybody with FE sort of takes for granted how much they know, like walking into a room, like what your boss might expect, what sort of behavior you should have, or like what your parents taught you was the way to act, like just the way that these things impact you. And like, I think it tends to be like FE users that understand like sociology and like social justice things of like how it's not just people being like playing the victim all the time. Sometimes it is just like this wider social phenomenon that we have been taught. Like FE notices these things, and I think that
exactly.
we should make another video before we move on to any other functions where we really unpack almost like the social perception of FE, because
I think that's a good idea.
You actually are the one to, I feel like you're the one who have really like told me that that's a thing, because I
Told
think
you what?
that people just don't like FE. They don't like strong emotions. People don't like strong emotions. It's intimidating. Like,
wait,
that's
did you
just
just say that FJs? Oh wait, so FJs say, I feel like people just don't really understand FE, and then I said people just don't like FE. How is that different?
Well, it's similar, but I guess, okay, like whenever an FJ is like feeling misunderstood or whatever, or like that the world's against them or whatever, we so want to abandon our subjective emotion that we assume like, oh, you know, it's probably just me, or like, no, like, I don't know, like, it's probably fine. Like, we don't like really stick by that. We don't see the TE truth that, yeah, people don't like FE. They don't.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I don't know how to like really explain that, because
that
every FJ feels alone in their own feelings with that.
Yeah. Well, like, and I think that like when people say, I just think people don't understand FE. They're not like, ew, I hate you because you don't understand FE. They're not like that. They're like, it's
A lot of it is sexist in nature, and I know I'm being really like controversial in this episode, but like I'm so like I don't care about my follower count like anymore. Like, not that I ever really did, but like a lot of it's sexist in nature. We've been taught that that is not an okay way to be, and it is an okay way to be, whether you're a man or a woman or whatever gender you are. It is an okay way to be.
Yeah, and I think that like people need to realize that like when FJ say, I think people just don't understand what FE is. They're saying, I feel like people don't understand what FE is. Not, I'm so mad. People don't understand what FE is. It's the tone and stuff. Like
exactly, and that's the thing, is that the fact that they even think that you're whining means that they don't understand FE, because it would take FI to be whiny like that.
Yeah, but see, if an FI user, if someone was incorrectly typed as an FJ when they were actually an FP and they went off like that, then you would think that. And I think, like, it's funny because, like, someone I know on Twitter kind of gathers, like, information and asks people to, like, selectively respond and, like, kind of takes their word for it. And so this, like, I've just seen so much misinformation about how FJs work because it's just FPs who are mistyped volunteering their TE perception of how their emotions objectively work. And so I think what I will say about this episode is, if you are like, Meghan is talking crazy, what is Crystal doing? You would have to have a good sample of correctly typed FJs to ask if they relate to this episode and what Meghan's saying. And you'd have to be like almost bulletproofly betting your life sure those people were FJs.
Yeah, I'm so aware that people are either going to be all for us in this episode or completely think that everything we're saying is subjective, and like there's no way to prove it, and like that's the thing, like you're either with us or not. Like,
I feel like I'm good at typing FJs because I've spent so much time challenging all my assumptions about Meghan to now where I instantly can know when someone's an FJ because of the way that they confuse the fuck out of me but still light me up. And that's like my radar that I've refined for 5 years. That is like 365 days in a year. For 5 years.
Just read about it. We felt it. We felt the emotions. We've cried over it.
Hours, minutes of me thinking about this concept because it impacted me a lot as a child when I couldn't understand my mother who's an FJ. So for me, what I'm saying is, before you go saying we're talking crazy, you should challenge your assumptions on how well you know and have typed the people in your life. And my last thing, because I have to go, sorry, is I'll say that it was only because of FE that I was able to get this good at type as an ENFP. Many people of you have been like, how is it that you're an ENFP, but your TI and NI seem so good? Because you just come off differently and less scrambled. And I'm like, because FE.
And then they say my, like, TI is good or whatever. It's because we've helped each other. Anyway.
And yes, but that's the thing. Only an FJ would put up with enough of my baggage, my bullshit, and see how it's lit them up and let them down. And I'm able to see that too. But sometimes I don't always feel it. When I'm mad at Meghan, I forget all the good things she's done, to be honest. But Meghan never forgets that. It has been able to learn to cognitively talk me through, like, hey, like, I know you're mad and triggered. Can you step back for a second and remind me? It's like so many of our fights have been because she holds down the fence of, hey, like, I'm going to maintain, I'm going to stick here. And then we can, like, cycle through our FI and, like, figure it out by, like, meme using or something. But, like we both pull our weight, but FE stays around to make you see their weight. And I think that people really, really need to wake up to this, because high vibe FE has probably influenced you in a lot of ways that you aren't even grateful for or understand.
Yeah.
Because of it's not your fault, though. It's the misconceptions that our society and culture puts on FE, and it doesn't know how to explain itself very well, which is kind of annoying. So it's not
actually. FE is honestly a very, like, unsung hero, because the thing is that I almost feel like it's harder for FE to be high vibe because it's not praised.
Yeah,
it's
and what I was telling Meghan how, like,
it's so easy for FJs to just fall into themselves.
Yeah, and I was telling Meghan how, like, ENFJ Martin Luther King, no one liked him at the time he was, like, alive. He got assassinated. Like, it's like everyone praises him now. It's like, okay, well, after the fact, because, like, at the time, y'all didn't like him that much. So
well, he did the emotional labor to get us to where we are now.
Exactly.
And that's the thing.
He was like, peace, guys, peace. And people were like, no. And he was like, peace, guys, peace. And they're like, no. And, like,
that consistency.
History is full of people being ungrateful for the consistency of FE.
Yes.
Not to say they never mess up. Not to say they never mess up. They do, maybe on an interpersonal level, but in a group level, progressing society, they always pull their weight. Their weight is, like, it's so basic. It's just they showed up and they gave a goal to meet.
Mr. Rogers is an ISFJ. And I think that people appreciate what Mr. Rogers did for children and his FE more now that he's dead. And they laughed at him for being, like, naive or whatever.
Yeah, they were so mean to him. Watch the documentary. Like, guys, you have to realize that you wouldn't even be able to know how to appreciate an FJ most likely, because
they don't know him when they see them. They call him an INFP. He's not.
Yeah. They're triggered by their high vibe FE. But anyways, I gotta go for real. But yeah, love you, Meg.
Okay, thank you guys for watching. We're going to be having, I think, one more episode on FE after this.
Sorry. That's how much you guys know. We need to talk about this.
Wait, question really quick, Crystal. Do you think that we need another episode on high vibe FE, or do you think we should just move on to, like, sort of the cultural
We can talk about high vibe FE within culture, so kind of like make both. So,
we'll talk about it one more time before moving on to topic TE.
You can't talk about high vibe FE without talking about its influence on culture. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah. We'll talk about that and, like, sort of the cultural implications of it before we move on to the other functions. If you want us to help us type you, and the way that we did it is you can go watch the episode where we talk about it, but Crystal developed these sort of traps to reveal your cognition so that we can see how you think and not, like, what you say on the page, because we know that you can do anything that you ever set your mind to. And so that's the way we're doing our typing.
Yeah, with FE and FI.
Also, I am looking for mentees who want me to help you with your functions mentorship. So links below. Thank you for listening. Bye. Have a wonderful rest of your day.